good afternoon, I can say that now. Good afternoon, everyone. I think I'm conscious of the fact that I think this panel is standing between you and lunch. So we're going to keep it snappy and keep it exciting for you. And before you get any hunger pangs, and we jump right into it. Quick warm up in terms of obviously we are seeing a shift. We heard about building trust into AI systems right at the start when you start thinking about the systems. We are also seeing in terms of in last 18 months has been very interesting in terms of what AI can generate, right? Everyone has created those funny pictures and videos that has come across. And one of my popular pop culture reference to generative AI is the Will Smith video eating noodles, right? How it has changed. But now we are talking about, and this particular panel is focusing, zooming in on moving from what AI can say or generate to what AI can do, taking action. And we will also try to uncover a little bit whether it's about what AI can do or whether enterprises are ready to hand over the control to AI to take those actions. So without any further ado, I would like to my panelists to go around and introduce themselves, and then also in one statement also talk about what are one of the most overhyped and underhyped aspects of generative or agentic AI.
Yeah, thanks. So my name is Soumyajit. I lead the regional data office for Nomura, which is a Japanese investment bank, but present in about 30 plus jurisdictions. In my role, we look after data, cloud, and AI governance aspects, and we work very closely with the AI development and the business case owners to ensure that they're getting the architecture right, the use case right, they're developing it responsibly, and at the end of the day, we're getting the right returns. The one-liner about the hype, I think, from me, when I look at flashy demos, they hardly work when you are trying to put them into production or even a POC for that matter, right? So it's always synthetic manufactured data behind the flashy demos. So if you're running after that, you probably have to be cautious, and I think I'm preaching to the choir here. I think in my opinion, right, not necessarily Nomura's opinion, but the underhyped or maybe most underappreciated are the practices around engineering and the architecture and the governance of it, because those are the pillars on which you would actually get the proper use case developed and be able to get returns out of it.
Hi everyone. I'm Sreenivas. I head the data governance, data platform, and analytics for OFI. OFI is part of Olam Group of companies. So Olam is a commodity trading and food ingredient company. We have been one group till 2020. We kind of de-merged Olam into different entities now. I'm representing OFI. OFI deals in like all good products. So we deal in coffee, cocoa, spices, nuts, and dairy. So I think out of 10 cups of coffee, we kind of hold 2 cups of market share. So we also operate in 50 plus countries. We actually buy most of our sourcing from farmers, and we deal in all the supply chain from all the way from a farm to large companies like Nestle, Mondelez, etc. So we are like a brand behind brand. So we handle this entire supply chain for these companies. So we handle the most complex side of operations in today's context. So even since we cover quite a broad space, what we get is we get a lot of use cases actually. So it's more open. So we get a lot of use cases. So the biggest challenge is to really dig and find out those 2%, 3% of use cases that actually generate value. So our question to every use case, everything that comes up, we question what is the benefit, can you quantify the value? So that's where some use cases go back because people are excited in bringing those use cases, but when you ask them to put a number against it, benefit against it, then that gets prone. So that helps us in fine-tuning the list and actually take action on what is important.
Thanks for that, Sreenivas. Very quickly, in terms of decisions taken by agentic AI or autonomous decisions, how it has affected the way your organization is thinking about decision making?
Yeah, I can go for it actually. As I told you, like we're part of one group company. We have been splitting into different companies. I think it's an advantage. It also brought us some advantage because as we have to split, we had to relook at our architecture. So it means we were part of the SAP ecosystem. We were using SAP BI, BO, BW kind of a framework. But when we wanted to split, we were thinking it's part of our data strategy. We were thinking, should we go ahead with the same architecture or should we step back and see how we can build new solutions? So this helped us to really come up with a new data and AI architecture. So we took 2 years, especially 2022 and 23, where we built on the data foundations. The earlier panels clearly called out like data foundation is one of the key things. So we spent 2 years in actually building the data foundation. That helped us to move from a group company to an independent company where we moved from all the reports and dashboards. So, and at the same time, we kind of re-established pipelines to the data sources and we transformed the data. We created that gold layer of data. That helped us when this agentic AI started coming into a picture actually. Last year was lot of hype. If you see like Jan, Feb, where you hear a lot of agentic AI topics coming into the market. So, but not many people know how to implement it actually. So we were in the same phase there. So, but we leveraged. I mean, we kind of engaged McKinsey Quantum Black to help us drive use cases. So, 2 use cases is what we have picked up. One is for a trading digital twin. So we do a lot of trading both in derivatives market and physical market. And we also have embarked on supply chain digital twin. So these are 2 twins we have created. These 2 twins we bucketed into 4 main categories. So we call VSOP. So it's like a journey, right? We visualizer, simulator, optimizer, and predictor. So this is the journey which we have given a pathway, and this is where we are heading. Probably I'll give you some use case examples as we progress.
Swami, are you seeing the same, like a similar use cases, or in your work, what kind of use cases you see?
So I think for us, right, broadly, if we speak about AI and then we'll go into agentic, right, we sort of divide the use case spectrum into 3 buckets, right? One, which is revenue generation, revenue augmentation, and given that we are highly regulated, I think that's probably our smallest bucket, but most impactful ones, right? So these are things around, pitch book generation for clients as an example, which used to take enormous amount of time because analysts used to do it. More than time, I think the benefit that we are seeing out of AI or use of agentic in this case is really the standardization, because if you give the same job to 3 different analysts, the output's slightly different. It's not always necessarily, at the same level of detail or quality or language and things like that. So we're starting to see some of the software benefits there in addition to speed, right? And therefore, the client experience is improving. The second, which is probably the biggest bucket, right, as with all of the organizations, is productivity and efficiency. So this is where I think we've got about like hundreds of use cases. Literally, that's some of about close to 50 in production, about 300 to 400 in testing and development phases and things like that, right? And these are things around your reconciliations or just your document summarizations, your research reports, and so on and so forth, right? And the third bucket, which is where my team directly gets involved in development, is really risk management, right? Both in terms of how do you actually assess risks using AI for our existing processes as well, our new processes, as well as find control gaps using AI, because that's really where I think financial institutions has struggled in the past because of a ton of data, of a ton of legacy processes that run, regulations keep changing and so on and so forth. So I think, those are 3 things. And across these, right, we are seeing agentic, starting to make an impact. I spoke about the pitch book generation as an example, right? KYC is probably one of the other functions that's getting heavily impacted and influenced by by agentic. In fact, if I have to take that in a broader sense, right? Anything which requires a human triage but is data heavy, like a KYC, trade recons, right? Or your trade surveillance even to a certain extent, right? That is a high value sort of a use case for us, because even with the existing processes, there is no guarantee that it's done right, right? And then obviously, we can use a lot of the agentic for our standard data management. We're doing a lot of that, right? Uncovering lineage, right? We have deployed agents that can actually go and uncover lineage, which was, months and years of work for those of you who've done, BCBS 239 implementations and so on. So I think we're seeing a lot of that across the board.
That seems to be the trend, because I saw Patty talking about source of wealth and KYC as well. So it seems like a trend in financial services. What about your world? What are the agentic use cases that you guys are seeing? Could you, as you said about supply chain, could you dive a bit deeper?
Yeah, with so much happening in the market, right? This year and last year, you heard a lot of tariffs and a lot of information. And with now the Strait closed, there's a lot of impact of fuel prices directly impacting the freight rates. So the supply chain agent that we build is like is a pane of glass. It's like the digital twin helps you to get. There are multiple agents. Again, I'll go with the Paris view that the agents haven't matured to go to a predictive, but it can give you a view on. It can go till a recommendation state. So what we have is we have agents checking our production line, saying, okay, what inventory we have, what is in production. It also checks what are the commitments that we have with the customers, and what are our procurement plans. It takes a view of the logistics and industrial logistics view from the market. So it brings all this data together. And when any new signal comes, right, like let's say there is a new signal that is coming from the market that there is a disruption, let's say in South America now. So we start seeing, okay, what are these shipments or related things that are affecting in that region? The agents come together, the orchestration helps to give you a recommendation, okay, there is an expected impact of this in the region. So these are the recommended steps. Means you can reallocate to a factory in Asia so that the disruption in South America can be handled, or you prioritize for these customers which have a higher impact, higher value. So go, and so these are the recommendations that come in, and the human in loop today validates them. But one more thing that we're doing is we are adding that learning curve. So where some of these decisions made are recorded. So for the next event, the human in loop for those decisions are reduced. So that's a one supply chain digital twin that we built is kind of changing the way we operate today.
You also touched upon one of the critical component, which is value, right? What does an ROI look like for agentic AI use cases?
So if you take the same example of supply chain, right? So today, to do the same thing, there are like a lot of Excel spreadsheets the team get from different locations, and there are multiple systems. The data is sitting in silos in terms of inventory, stocks, contracts, etc. So bridging that together used to take like 2-3 weeks. By then, we have already lost the opportunity, right? Now, the digital twin is able to quantify, bring that information together, and reduce that to like in minutes. So you can really see the difference in terms of the value that agent is generating. So the teams are able to quantify this actually. So when we started building these agents, the first step is to quantify if you reduce the time of this operation from 1 hour to 10 minutes. So what is the value you generate? That's how we contributing back to the ROI. So that's one of the ways we did it actually.
How about you?
So I think, again, right, we measure that across the 3 buckets, right? So for the revenue generation, revenue augmentation, right? When the use cases come, there is a projection of what the benefit is in absolute dollar terms, and we do measure that across, a time period. For productivity, right, and this is probably like a pseudo metric, right? Everybody says we've saved X hours, but what does it mean, right? You're not actually reducing headcount. So I think what we're trying to do is, ensure that X hours are being utilized for for an activity that is actually impacting the customer. right? So can we, ensure that the customer advices are going in the right time with maybe a touch of personalization, or we are actually looking at it holistically as opposed to often what institutions do is just answer a point question as opposed to answering the broader question. But and that's probably because they didn't have access to the data or they didn't have the time. And now with this efficiency gains, you can do all of that, right? With the risk reduction, it's harder to measure because technically it's sort of a preventive thing, right? It's really a fact that have we avoided fines? That's probably the clearest measure, but that's again not very quantifiable because you don't know when it's going to hit you or not, right? But yes, so that's sort of how we are thinking about it at least.
Thanks for that. One of the aspect I heard, I think we all heard this morning is human in the loop, versus decision autonomy to agents. One of the things is there a minimum viable autonomy which enterprises are comfortable at this stage?
It actually depends on the use case maturity. Some use cases which have gone through few iterations and few loops, the human in the loop dependency will reduce significantly. If the use case is just starting and has significant impact and risk around it, I think the human in the loop dependency is higher. It's not like one size fits all. So that's my view.
And someone on the panel this morning said you will not be using it to approve loans, but in your world, where are the decisions?
No, so see again, right? For our business, it's institutional banking, right? Investment banking, wholesale banking, etc. I don't think we're going to do the last mile ever, right? And I think when I say I can safely speak for it, right? At least for the foreseeable future. But where we are, right, and I think where most of the organizations are, space is, it's more of assisting the decisions. It's more of augmenting the decisions, right? And more of recommending rather than actually doing it, right? And I think for our sort of industry, till we get more and more comfortable, to be honest, right, we're literally, the industry as a whole is 1 year into this proper agentic journey, right? It's really too early to say that can we go ahead and start deploying autonomous agents that will handle $1 billion portfolio for you. Would you ever listen to your chatbot to reinvest the portfolio if you had, a $10 billion portfolio and say, I'm making a decision because a chatbot has told me to do so, right? Now, on the other hand, right, we have tested it, and over time with, for example, our, quants teams are always doing pricing models, right? Portfolio rebalancing, but that's tested over time. We have control over that. We have things where, checkpoints around, when things can go wrong, right? So what I would say in this case is if we are doing that portfolio rebalancing example, right? If you put in the right parameters, let's say you're allowed to rebalance the portfolio plus minus 3%, plus minus 5%, understanding that you're not sort of, moving the risk appetite of the customer, with certain asset classes, et cetera, then what we're doing is we're bounding that agentic decision, right? And I think we are getting a little more comfortable towards that as opposed to, the hyped, an agent can do everything sort of scenario.
But
Sorry, just even in our case, there are clearly some use cases. We kind of automated the decision making. Example, the freight booking today. We automated it because based on we know what is the pipeline of shipments that we need to move from one place to another place. And another kind of a use case where we have automated is linking. We have a sales and we have a purchases and inventory. Is there an allocation that system can do it? And the agent can understand based on the previous shipments, identify what kind of stocks the customer wants and linking them back. So there are, as I told again, the use case maturity. We are using that as some human in the loop in the beginning, but subsequently the agents doing that work.
So I'm hearing two very balanced views here, but I just want to also see, is that leading to any kind of new governance framework when you're asking an agent to take the decisions? Is that leading to any new kind of governance framework that you guys are exploring?
Yeah, I can take that first. Swami can add on, right? So I think the first and foremost for us as a regulated institution is we have to demonstrate that we have a governance framework and it's evidenceable, right? It feels humbling to talk in front of Dr. David here, who's probably pioneered the whole responsible AI practice in the region. But the way we're looking at it is 3 steps, right? Really, one is the policy frameworks, right? Right, and that's the top of the house because that's a regulatory commitment and ask really, and that includes our oversight committees and so on and so forth. Now, they can only do so much, right? Because that's essentially, a lot of that happens after the fact, right? What we are actively doing now is embedding that policy in the pipelines, and this is very important for agentic because the agents are, by definition, they can take their own decisions. Now, you cannot wait for an audit after 3 months to catch something that's happened. So you've got to embed that checkpoints within the agentic pipeline and sort of govern that, right? And this can be done by as an example, bounding agents, right? Or embedding your skill files that you are comfortable with, as opposed to the agent importing its own skill file and trying to do whatnot, right? We are revising and looking at the access policies. That needs to be very, very now thorough, right? We're looking at some of the data lineage type of things that can be put into the agent, because then the agent has to know which is your authoritative source of data, because in a bank or any organization, the same data can manifest in different places, different ways, right? So there's a ton of activity going on around that space. And then, obviously you do your observability checks, and so on and so forth. So that goes without saying, those are your technical controls, right? Maybe just to sort of summarize that thought process, right? The sort of mantra we're going ahead is trust but verify.
Thanks for that. And and talking about governance, right? Like, what other aspects I want to touch about is what are the other issues or aspects which are usually underestimated, and from you guys have implemented some of the agentic systems. So what are some of the issues which are mostly underestimated when you're going to deploy an agentic AI system?
One thing I have noticed is the technology is moving much faster than governance. So we kind of started building agents, then started thinking about governance actually. So because as we start seeing results and we started seeing how governance we can establish a governance around those rules. So governance, again, there are a lot of things coming like AI Act, and there are guardrails on how do you make your agents are not biased, they're not hallucinating, right? So these are evolving actually. So I think as of now, yeah, actually the agent space is moving faster than the governance. So governance is kind of catching up in our organization at least.
I think that's absolutely true. Like, technology is moving faster than any of the processes. So I think the way that we're thinking about it is, technology governance, change management and governance, and that's sort of missing, because a lot of times what we also see is that, when the use cases are put forward, they're not end-to-end. Right? Like, if you just don't sort of iterate with the business, right, you're not going to get enough benefits out of it, right? So there is a heavy component of change management, changing legacy. In terms of the other challenge, right, which we see in a bank, is the mix of maturity around systems, around processes, right? And to break that and sort of harmonize that to a certain extent is going to take us some time.
That's an interesting perspective. Who owns this though? Who owns this agentic AI system? Is it the business? Is it IT? Is it data?
I mean, at least in our space, defining the architecture, platform, like democratizing way of setting up things is held by the data and AI COE. But whereas driving the use case development, use case execution is driven by business. So we are giving a framework because we don't want to control. So we already see in pockets people are using different tools to build different capabilities. At least what we are learning now is establish that framework, enable people to enable access to that framework to the team, and let them build the cases. So even there, we kind of approaching it a bit differently, because we can see there are a lot of tools available to build agents today. You can do it with Copilot, you can do it with Claude. There's so many ways, right? People are doing in their personal laptops now. They're saying that I'm doing it in my personal laptop. I can do this. Why you can't use it? So the way we are thinking is, okay, have a flexibility in building agents or capabilities, but when it comes to productionizing them, right? That's where we're trying to bring in more stringent process flows, where the deployment to production is much more tightly governed than exploring or building initially. So.
Yeah, and I think we're in a similar phase, right? Like, I mean, we don't want to stifle innovation at any cost, right? But at the same time, we want to make sure that whenever it goes to production, it's rightly governed. We have, the right parameters that we can evidence, right? And I think evidencing is key. We talked a lot about human in the loop, human on the loop this morning. One of the principles that we go in is it just can't be a declaration that there's a human there, right? So we are actually looking at logs. So for example, right, if you're saying that we've transcribed a call log and summarized and used it for a decision, somebody is reviewing that log before it actually is used, right? And we are asking them to do a digital signature, maybe a verify button or whatever. So we're not prescriptive about it. You have to showcase. And we then go and look at the log to say, when was the transcription done, and if the, if the time gap between the transcription and the verification is a matter of milliseconds, microseconds, it's probably not human verified, right? So we're trying to look at it from different perspectives to sort of make sure that what's declared is actually being utilized and followed in practice.
So that brings an important question, right? In terms of AI can give answers fast, it can take decisions, and we are still working with human in the loop model kind of the setup, right? At what point human in the loop negates the efficiency that you gain by using AI?
I don't think I have the right answer for this at this moment, right?
Maybe not negate, maybe I should say slow down,
or
become a bottleneck.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the risk appetite again, and how you rank your use cases. So what we are sort of starting to get a little bit comfortable, and I may say that with a lot of reservation, is where it's very low impact, low risk use cases. I think that's where you will see that happen faster than if it's again a material decision. Now materiality is obviously a subjective word, right? And that's where your risk appetite would come into play to say is a $5 billion decision a material decision, or is it a $2 million or whatnot, right? But I think we're going to see that progressively, in my view, but we're not there yet.
Just to add, in our context, we are actually defining the learning models. So when we're actually picking up any use case, few of the things is, everything has to be human in the loop to validate it, or is there a way we can define, I'll go with the same point, like what is the risk appetite that we can take? So for those kind of scenarios, we kind of giving it more flexibility to make decisions. And there is a high risk, again, there is human in the loop that's coming in with a learning curve embedded to it. So let's say the decision has been made to human in the loop made a decision about accepting or rejecting it. There is a way we ask to them to give a comment, why they think that it has been accepted, why it's not been. So that goes into the learning loop again.
I've been itching to ask this question, right? If I gave you an unlimited budget, and budget was not an issue, where would you like to invest money? Is it in better models, or better agent orchestration, or infrastructure? Where would you like to spend that money, or data maybe?
Yeah, I think it's not one market for sure, right? I think we've spoken a lot. All the experts on the panels have spoken a lot about data, so I would definitely have that as the fundamental, right? Models, yes, I think that goes without saying, but that's not the focus. I think the part that goes unseen often, which I touched upon a little bit, is the change management bit, right? for us, especially in a financial institution. So, the amount of legacy processes and the resistance to change the process, not because of job displacement or anything, it's just because, I've had conversations where the individuals who came forward and said, we don't know what's been built over 10 years, it just works, right? And unwinding that, takes effort and time and therefore budget and money, right? And if you're putting an agent on top of that, you can imagine the risks that we carry, right? So, that change management inevitably gets, under sort of budgeted, or, it doesn't actually get factored in often. All the other things, technology investments get in, right? The other thing I would say, again, from our industry experience, is investing in control functions, right? Today, when we have governance as a discussion, it's always seen as a cost, right? And this is a sort of a narrative that I've been trying to talk to my, senior management and board, that you are actually investing in a governance or a control function. And when I mean by control, it's not just ours, but across, with AI, you're bringing in multiple types of risk. Like, you've got a third-party risk, because none of us in the room own these models any longer, right? Even your providers don't own these models, right? So there's that, right? You've got, a different legal and compliance risk now. You can no longer use transcribe recording for, a sales pitch if it was transcribed for something else, right? Because that's violating your, your GDPR type of things, right? So, you've got to invest in those areas as well as you invest in technology and the use case development.
The way I think is it depends on the organization's maturity. So let's say if someone is starting now, probably you will use a lot of investment in setting the data foundations first, then gradually evolve into model and orchestration, and then governance. So it's a stage of the organization, depends where the most money will go in actually. If you have an unlimited budget, do let us know. So.
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting.
Awesome, thanks for that. Before I ask any more question, I wanted to take some time to engage with the audience and see if anyone from the audience have any questions, any burning questions, or itching to ask anything.
We can take about one question.
So we have seen some use cases there, agentic workflows are being productive, but I like the question where, what's the bottleneck, right? Are humans the bottleneck, right? That was the bottom line of that question. Human has been bottleneck in certain ways, for example, consumption of internet. 2007, when the iPhone was around, since then, everybody is focusing on UI and not the data itself. Now with the agentic, and the internet is being now rebuilt for the agents as we go around. A lot of old technologies are coming around. That's going to happen in businesses like banks, etc. Most of the data streams that comes through, that would be agent specific. Are there any agentic investments or workflows that you've seen that are purely agentic, that is agent first in terms of data and systems? Have you seen that? Are you looking into these things?
I'll give a view. This had been a very hot topic in our organization. So if we start a coffee trading company today, how do you do it? Like, we started 40 years back, but how do you do it today? I mean, we are like 20,000 people in the company operating all these businesses. But if we start today, are we going to do like that? So we started thinking this now. So we don't want to be another Nokia or anything like that. So we're thinking if someone starts, let's leave us. So if because these businesses are moving one hand to another hand, right? If someone starts today a trading company, how he will start? So how do you procure? How do you handle logistics? So are you going to have so many? So we have a solution called Ask Jarvis internally. It's like thinking like the Iron Man's way of thinking. So okay, if someone asks, just sitting in a room, starts prompting things like, okay, buy me this coffee so much and sell this to customers. So we're seeing a future like that, but I think it's this is the thinking happening already on ground.
Yeah, I think on our side, to your question, right, there has been a lot of interest in the data prep side of things to use agents, because again, right, that's very time consuming, one. Two, it's very sort of, when I say manual, I mean like, the process of discovery and, integration and all of that. So that is a space that is being actively looked at, right, from different technology teams, because again, right, they sort of face the problem the most.
Awesome. Thank you very much, panelists. That was very engaging. Round of applause for our panelists.
Thank you.